Greetings, fellow men. Servus Männer. This is Red Pill Germany again, and I want to give you guys a brief update on the situation in Germany at the moment. As you might know from my recent videos or from the media, even though the elections were some months ago in Germany last year in autumn, we still don't have a new government. But this morning there was some change. So the Social Democrats and the Christian conservative parties have been negotiating behind closed doors, and this morning there was apparently a breakthrough. These are not negotiations for a coalition yet. This is kind of a first round to make sure if it is at all possible to form a big coalition. But based on what we have heard since this morning, it is pretty much certain that we will have a new big coalition. That means Angela Merkel will stay the Chancellor of Germany. She will continue her coalition with the Social Democrats under Martin Schulz, and the government in Germany will have a slimmer majority because of the losses they suffered in the last elections, but they will stay the same government basically. Now, we don't have, of course, a coalition contract yet. As I said, the actual negotiations will follow, but the product of these first rounds of negotiations was a paper that presents the first agreements between those parties, the first compromises and the pillars or chapters of the new contract. So the cornerstones of the new contract basically. I want to give you a very brief rundown of these points. I might make a more detailed video about that if you guys are interested in that, but for now I will just give you the brief bullet points. And in the end of the video I will give a little comment about that on the whole. But before I start, I want to give you just the fiscal starting position of this whole thing. We have a record tax income in Germany, and the prognosis is that the German economy will continue growing, so that even in the future, this is what the politicians are expecting, we will have rising tax revenue for the state. So now the centrist parties can start an actual spending orgy, and the actual struggle between those two parties was who gets how much. And this is of course a horrible situation for the German taxpayer. So there is a plethora of points that just means new welfare spending, growth in the public sector, and the usual sins of centrist governments. I will not go into much detail here, but it suffices to say women will get a shit ton of money while men have to work harder. But now let's focus on the more pressing issues, starting of course with migration. So they already try to copy a little bit the Austrians. They say that asylum seekers will only be put in certain asylum centers, and they will not be put into normal apartments in German communities anymore. Only the people that have a very positive outlook on being integrated here will be living among Germans actually. The others will be put into these centers, as it used to be common practice in Germany for decades, and then their status will be determined, and if need be they will be sent back. Also, they say that they want less cash for migrants and rather giving them food and shelter and daily necessities. They also declared that the program that enables these newly arrived migrants to bring their entire extended families into Germany will be put on hold for the time being. Furthermore, they want to limit the number of people coming into Germany every year to 180 to 220,000 people. If you consider that there are only at the moment 600 to 70,000 babies born every year in Germany, which already includes xenoi babies by the way, we are still speaking about replacement levels of migration here. Which is quite interesting because the consulates and embassies abroad under the rule of Sigmar Gabriel are already organizing the issuing of broad-scale visas for the families of migrants who made it into Germany recently. So that means in Berlin they tell the people one thing, and then actually on the ground in the embassies and consulates all over the world, they're already preparing a full-scale migration of these families to Germany. Now, it is positive to say that countries from Northern Africa, where the acceptance level was only around 5%, will be declared as safe states, and they are no longer accepted as asylum seekers here in Germany. That's a good thing, I guess. Now they also want to transfer more money to Brussels. They say that they want to strengthen the European budget, which means, of course, that the German taxpayer is responsible for other people in Europe, that we are paying for budget deficits in other Eurozone states. Also, they want to strengthen the surveillance and police state. Lots of funds will be used to increase the number of policemen in Germany and to combat dissidents and opposition forces in Germany. Of course, they will be needed also to clean up the mess that recent decisions have created in Germany, and just to ensure a minimum level of operational public safety. As I told you before, without massive militarized police in Germany, you couldn't even cross the street anymore in many cities. Yeah, so as I said, they said there won't be any new taxes or higher taxes, but in fact they still reshuffle a lot of money from productive people to unproductive people. And so that means in the end, a productive German family, a productive German person will face higher taxes, whereas people who don't do anything will receive more benefits. Our politicians then call that no new taxes. How interesting. Alright, so after briefly going through these points and reading those articles, my impression is that, of course, as was to be expected, this paper is full of foul compromise between two parties that are basically agreeing, but that come from slightly different sides. Where the CDU wants to protect the industry and the banking sector, the Social Democrats have a soft spot for welfare cases. The people who suffer are always the most productive backbone of the German society, the middle class. They both hate the working people and the middle class. They have no understanding, no social contact, and no empathy at all for these people that go to work every day to pay for this circus here. Added into this mix is, of course, a certain dose of panic, because they want to appear now as if they are tough on migration, and as if they actually want to turn things around by limiting this max number of influx, but they don't say how they actually want to regulate that. They just expect that less people will be arriving. And this number of 200,000 a year is way too large. This is still replacement level migration. Now, the transformation of Germany into a totalitarian quasi-one-party system with a daily presence of heavily armed militarized police forces is seen by some people as a bitter consequence of the influx of migrants. However, other people say that this was the plan from the very beginning, that the destabilization of Central Europe through mass unvetted migration was just the tool that was used in order to accomplish the goal that was set a long time ago. To sum up, I will say that I'm not so sure that this coalition will last 4 years. I'm very certain that they will have a coalition very soon, because they have lots of money and lots of high-paying positions that they can distribute among their friends and comrades. But I really wonder whether or not they can last for the full term of 4 years, or if we will have re-elections before that. So one thing is certain: if the AfD does not mess up now and doesn't have stupid scandals, and if they have the proper discipline and determination, they will profit greatly from this, because nobody likes a big coalition. The two big parties, the CDU-CSU and the Social Democratic Party, will get even weaker, and maybe in the next election it won't even be enough for another quote-unquote big coalition anymore. The central question will be whether or not it will be too late by then, or if the Germans are strong and determined enough to vote in actual change and turn this shit show around. Thanks for listening and enjoy your Friday night. Servus, Kameraden.